This time on Holy Ghost Notes.
You're an amazing drummer.
I'm playing y'all this whole time.
There it is.
I'm a little jealous, not gonna lie.
They're wearing a garbage bag.
I hope this works.
Let's get hyped. Yo, what's good in the hood? This is Tim and Matt, and this is the Holy Ghost Notes podcast. Thank you for listening. Matt, what's going on, man?
How are you doing? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm doing well. I haven't had my coffee yet, so we'll see how this goes.
That's tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, we both just woke up, I assume. This is
Yes.
a couple days after our episode was recorded with Kortney. And as is usually the case, it's busy. So last night we're like, hey, we should get this recorded tonight. And I had some other stuff I needed to get done.
Yeah.
So then you're like, let's do it 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And at first I was like, sure, that's great. And then I realized how late it was going to be. So even 7:30 feels early. The daylight savings change really affects me the older I get. Is it the case for you too?
Oh, yeah. I'm still thrown off. It's been, 2 weeks now? And every day, it feels like my day goes faster, which is nice for the work day in some cases. Right. And in other cases, it's like, oh, crap, I only have an hour left in the day, and I have 2 hours left of work to do. It's definitely thrown me off. But my whole sleep schedule has been so out of whack with the baby, and it's all just a big mess right now. As far as sleep is concerned.
5 or 6 hours a night? Are you getting that? Or are you getting less? Or
at this point, probably. Like couple weeks in, it was it started getting pretty rough. A few hours a night, if that. But yeah, at this point, I think we've kind of normalized a little bit more, and so yeah.
Yeah, I was with a couple the other week, and they were telling me, it just left me with the impression that it is hard to be a parent, and there are factors in being a mom or a dad that you just don't think about unless you are one.
Yeah.
So they were saying for the first, I forget how many months of their, I think it was their daughter, which is so their oldest is a son, and they have a daughter, and their daughter just had a rough time, and they were getting 2 to 3 hours a night.
Yeah.
And so what I had never thought about is that the husband would leave for work in the morning, and the wife would stay home with the 2 kids, and he's exhausted, but he's going out to work, and he's not, in charge of anybody else per se, but she still has to keep the house intact and be a mom and do all that on 2 to 3 hours of sleep.
That's brutal.
And they did it, and it was cool because their kids are so incredible. Just a couple years later, their kids, once, a tough nightmare to deal with, are now like pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And intelligent, and they behave themselves, and it was just really cool to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. It is crazy. I mean, even as a parent, like doing it with the first one, it's still so drastically different than the second one. And just in general, having 2 is like a game changer. It's like, it's just completely different. But there's things that I forgot about from when Caden, my first son, there's things I forgot about from his infancy that I'm now remembering. Like, I did not plan for this. I am not, So there's definitely there's 100% like a second child syndrome, Like, even we were hanging out with a friend of ours who just had a baby a couple weeks after we had Nolan, and they would not put him down. He was in sight at all times, and like Nolan was like in the corner somewhere still in his car seat because he was asleep, and we didn't want to wake him up, and we just were like, yeah, he's fine over there. Like, you know? And it was like this, I was like remembering like, with Caden, that would not have been the case. He would have been, if he was still in the car seat, he would have been right in front of us. Like, we would have been looking at him every few seconds to make sure he was okay. And it's just totally different, how you, how you parent changes, and it's like out of necessity. you know so it's been a fun experience overall. We've been
Yeah.
learning a lot, and despite the
Yeah.
lack of sleep,
Yeah.
it has been fun. So
Yeah. Well, you make cute kids. It's
thank you.
I'm excited for you guys that even in the midst of all the the challenges you guys have had, that you have two healthy, beautiful kids.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
at the end of the day, kind of to what I was saying earlier, like for a time it can be tough. If you could just hang in there and stick with it and put your head down, give it a couple years and your circumstances can change completely.
Yeah.
And that's true, and seems to be true in parenthood. Like I said, I wouldn't know, but it seems to be true. But it's certainly true in my own life in other ways,
Yeah.
where if you're going through something difficult, if you just give it a little time and hang in there, it does things do change, and they
Yeah.
change more than you think they do. And you can learn a lot through those challenging times about yourself and other people, and
That's right.
that's important. Life isn't supposed to be easy. It wouldn't there wouldn't be as much value in life if it was easy.
Yeah.
I'm sure that as a parent you're wishing it was, when you're waking up at like, what is it, like 1 a.m, 2 a.m? I mean, how much into your sleep schedule are you waking up? Is it like right away? Is it a couple hours in?
It's all the time. Well, so I think I told you with Nolan, he had a lip tie. He had 2 tongue ties, a lip tie, and 2 cheek ties.
Right.
So we had to get those
Oh my
like week 2.
goodness.
We had to get those lasered, like it's like a water laser or something. And they made 5 incisions, and then for the next 3 weeks, every 4 hours, that's every 4 hours throughout the night as well, we would have to do these exercises to stretch those areas because the mouth heals so quickly. So we had to like basically do these exercises in his mouth, which he was not happy about, just to keep those areas healing properly.
Right.
And so what happened in a lot of cases is, like, I mean, he was trying to adjust to our sleep schedule because, we're up throughout the day and it's bright out, and, so he was waking up throughout the night, but like random times. But then we would what happened a lot of the time is like, all right, 4 hours of sleep, that doesn't sound too bad. Like a broken up night isn't that bad, except we would get him to sleep. And then like an hour later, we'd have to wake him up for his exercises. And then he'd be up for a few hours. We'd be trying to get him back down, and then he'd fall asleep. And then an hour later, we'd have to wake him up for his exercises. So it was like, we were getting like an hour here and then skip a couple hours and then an hour here. And this was mostly, I'm not going to take credit for any of this because this was mostly my wife that had to handle this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was brutal. But so we're out of that now. Monday was the last day
That's awesome.
of those exercises. So we've already gotten significantly more sleep because of
Jeez.
that. So, but yeah. But every experience is different with every kid, and I guess the main takeaway is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's all worth it in the end.
Mhm.
It's hard
Absolutely.
for a time, and then the reward is much greater than the trial.
Right.
So,
No, that's right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's some cool insight there from a young dad. So I appreciate that, Tim.
I don't always have this outlook, but for right now,
Yeah, for
I'm,
right now
I'm
you
sticking
do.
to that.
We caught you in a good morning.
Yeah.
So.
You caught me on a good day for sure. What have you been up to, man? What's new with you? I know you've been busy.
I've been busy. Yeah, not any busier than usual though.
Okay.
So my soccer league started back up. I play
Nice.
every Tuesday night with a soccer league.
Yes.
It's a bunch of friends and myself. None of us are all that great. Some of us are better than others. But I just wrote the drum track for our theme song. And you might ask, why do we need a theme song? We're a soccer team. But there's a gentleman who plays with us who owns a clothing company, and he's very good with marketing. He has a podcast. He came up with the name Swamp Dragons.
Swamp
for our
Dragons.
soccer team. This is like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So I
Nice.
was joking around with him and my other friend Sean and was saying we should write a song just for fun. It's got to be like a pop punk,
Yeah.
maybe even like Bouncing Souls, Blink-182 sounding song.
love
I
that.
said, but the rule for myself is going to be that I have to write and record it in one take. That's the only way this is allowed. So I sat down and pushed record. I sat here for like maybe 30 seconds and thought about what I wanted the structure to be, and then I recorded this awful drum track. It's about 1 minute and 50 seconds long. Bounced it, sent it to Sean, and Sean's writing guitars for it.
Nice.
And it's so dumb. It's so dumb.
But probably one of the
But-
funnest things that you've written in a long time, right?
Certainly low pressure.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what I've been up to. That took all of 2 minutes. But the soccer team started up last night again. ABR is doing some stuff. Obviously we have some stuff going on here,
Mm-hmm.
and then my website is I have some new content going up there pretty
Nice.
soon. So
Very cool.
yeah. Oh,
That's
and
exciting.
farming starts up pretty soon. I mean, it's March 24th today, 25th
Yeah.
tomorrow. We'll be farming in about a month.
Yeah.
We'll start.
Heading into Q2 starts to kick everything into gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as it gets nice outside,
Oh,
you
and
can
it's
really
been so
feel it
nice.
kick into gear.
It has been so nice.
Yeah.
The weather does so much for me mentally. I know we've talked
I
about this
know.
before, but like just that switch to
Yeah.
the 60-degree weather, man, it just makes a world of difference. Even when I'm not outside, just like looking outside and knowing that it's nice out,
I know.
it's a game changer.
It really is.
It's great.
Yeah.
So, we've got an awesome episode for you guys today.
Mm-hmm.
We have Kortney Grinwis, who Matt texted me. I guess we were kind of about at the crunch time for this episode, and I had a couple topic ideas in mind, and Matt texted saying, "Hey, we're going to have Kortney Grinwis on." This is not something that we had talked about prior, and not a guest that we had on the list of suggestions, but a guest that we were able to squeeze in. And believe it or not, Kortney's been a drummer that I've looked up to for a long time, little to Matt's knowledge.
I had no idea.
So
That's
it worked
cool.
out really well. It was a great conversation, and she's just such a down-to-earth person.
Yeah.
And one thing I love about this podcast is that a lot of these guest interviews, I mean, what you hear as listeners is, a great conversation. But there's stuff that happens before we hit record and after we hit record. And I just love how a lot of these guests actually end up becoming friends of mine
Mm-hmm.
after the fact. There's text conversations happening before, and then, I do a lot of the graphics and like scheduling these things and getting things approved with them afterwards. So there's a lot of texting, and, and that usually leads to additional conversations or additional friendships. So,
Mm-hmm.
That's been something, I guess, behind the scenes that I've benefited from personally. Is just I'm growing in friendships, and Kortney is no different. I feel like I walked away with a new friend, and yeah, she's just so cool, and I think you guys are going to get a lot out of this. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a blast having her on. She's funny. She's always had this spark about her
Yeah,
that sets her apart. Drumming in the drumming world and just her personality in general. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one.
yeah, for sure. Well, let's get right to it. Everybody, Kortney Grinwis.
When I was young,
What's going on? This is the Holy Ghost Notes, and today we have a very special guest, Kortney Grinwis. Kortney, how you doing?
I'm doing so well, you guys.
Awesome.
It's
Very
great.
honored to be a part of this.
Absolutely, it's great to have you. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you to speak in a British accent. We were just talking about how.
Not yet,
how-
at least. Not yet.
Yeah, we'll wait till like the half-hour mark.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll be fresh by then. We'll be
I
ready
think
to
you
go.
should just slowly
Right.
transition into the British accent throughout the episode. See if anyone notices.
Okay.
Or
We may
maybe
have
we
to
can
do
start over and start that way and see how long.
There
Just
you
straight
go.
up British. Everyone's like, holy shit, I had no idea. I'm playing y'all this whole time.
Yeah. A Dallas,
Well, thank you
Texas
so much
Brit.
for joining us. This is just it's cool how last minute some of this stuff turns out. In fact, most of the time our guests are kind of a last minute appearance, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, thanks.
absolutely.
Thanks for joining us. I want to start off by going back 6 years.
Yes.
Actually, almost 7 years. So Grinder Kilmer sold you a drum, right?
Yep.
And I wanted to see you play it. I wanted to see how it, sounded. And of course, I wanted to see you. So I drove to Philly, which is about an hour and a half away from me. And you guys were playing in this small venue, and I remember
Yeah.
it being packed. And as I was thinking about this, it's hard to imagine a small room packed with people right now, right? It's 2021.
Yeah, it's kind of freaky.
It's been a long time
You're like,
since
no,
we've been.
where's the hand sanitizer? I'm like, no.
So there we were, all packed in this room. And after the show, I helped you carry gear out to the sidewalk because if you're playing a small venue, typically if you're a band other than the headliner, right, there's nowhere for you to put your gear
It's
inside
a complete
the club.
nightmare.
It's a nightmare. So you're like, okay, the crowd that we just played for that just liked our show or loved our show, right? We just played 5 or 6 songs. Now we're asking them to move out of the way as quickly as possible and as nicely as possible. We're asking them to just sort of create this pass so we
Make
can
a
get
way,
this gear
yeah.
out.
Make way as you're like drenched in sweat
Yep.
It's sweat.
from head to toe, and you can't even hold on to your stands because it's like
Yep.
slipping out of your hands. It's just it's a really fun time. So I appreciated your help so much.
Of course.
that came
So
out.
I wanted to talk about the experience of going to a show as a musician where you weren't the one performing. So here's how I'll start it off, and then I want to see what you have to say about this. So I went to see A Day to Remember recently, about 2 years ago. And the show was awesome. They probably played for like 5,000 or 6,000 people. I thought they sounded incredible. I thought they were really tight. And afterwards, I was in the dressing room, and I went up to Alex. I was like, "Hey, man, that was awesome. You guys played really, really well tonight." And he's like, "Nope, it was horrible." Like, couple words, real short about it. And I could tell, like, it wasn't false humility. It wasn't like he couldn't take a compliment. It was like he legitimately believed that he played a horrible show. And I am that same type of person. And I'm curious if it's a performer thing or if it's a personality thing. If you're the one playing, are you ever happy with your performance? And do you take other people's compliment at their word?
I think it's definitely a performer thing.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's just the perfectionist and the artist. I mean, you're putting your heart and soul into something, and if it's not perfectly up to your standards, I mean, you're definitely the only one who's going to think that, and the only one who's going to like circulate it in your mind and be like, what was that? That was a mess.
Yeah.
But to anybody else, to the outside ear, they're like, that was phenomenal. But no, I definitely think that is a performer thing, or even just an artist. Like anyone creative will be super like nitpicky about every like detail in the set when no one else is thinking about that. You gotta
Right.
remind
So,
yourself of that.
so do you remember a time when you played a show and you were thrilled with your performance? Like you walked off stage and you're like, I killed it. I played well. And if anybody says otherwise, I know with such confidence I played well that their criticism of me won't even tear down the fact that I feel like I played well.
Yes.
Okay,
So
that's
there
good.
was, I would say more times than not, I'm in the other boat where you're like, that was horrible. Everything went wrong, blah, blah, blah.
Me
but
too.
when you do have those shows that feel so right, Like they stand out more than anything else.
Yeah.
And when you asked that, my first thought went to a show in Germany that we played. It was probably about 2 years ago from now. It was probably one of the biggest international shows we've played. We were on tour with Sleeping with Sirens at the time. Love that band. And I think it was because I went to the gym earlier that day, but I was feeling so good even before we got on stage. Like I had so much energy, my brain, I just felt so clear and excited. I mean, usually I get, pre-show jitters, but this show I was just like, hey, I'm in Germany. I'm doing the damn thing. Let's play a kick-ass show. And I think just going in with that energy, like it was like hands down my favorite show I think I've ever played. And yeah, like I got off stage just so hyped and just so happy. And I was like, even if I, screwed up a couple hits here and there, like I think just overall it was really special to me. So yeah, if anyone came and said anything, I'd be like, piss off. I don't care.
There it is.
Like I just, had a great time.
Yeah.
awesome.
So I think that speaks to the mental part of drumming, which we talk about a lot on this podcast, actually, right, Tim? It's like there is such a mental part to drumming, which everybody knows, whether you're a drummer and you know that from personal experience or whether you've heard people talk about it. It's so true, actually, in my drumming that I for a time, I stopped warming up before a show, and my drum tech was like, you should just get like a jump rope, and you should just jump rope for 15, 20 minutes, get sweaty, get excited, get your heartbeat up.
Get
and
the endorphins going. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I found in my experience, like if I'm excited to play the show, I'll probably play pretty well. And even if I don't, to your point, like maybe you messed up a few things, you're still going to be excited about the show itself. And that translates in a huge way to the audience, right? If you're in the audience and you see the drummer, you see someone on stage, it doesn't matter who it is, you can tell if they're not excited to be up there, right?
It's a whole energy type thing. Like it's so noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not fun to watch a band who looks like they're being paid to play for you.
Yep.
It doesn't want to be up there.
Very obvious when that happens, yeah.
So what do you do on days where you just don't feel like playing drums? I mean, if you're playing 5 shows a week, 5 on, 1 off, which is pretty typical for, bands of our size.
Yeah.
We don't have the luxury of going 1 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off. What do you do on days where you're just like, I don't want to do this?
I think the biggest thing is just to realize that like it's okay to have those days and to feel, even if you're physically there, like it's okay to have those mental days where you're just like, I'm just not totally feeling this like today. But I think that's completely okay, and that's very human for everybody. Like you can't be 100% every day. That's just not how we work.
Yeah.
But if I am like specifically having those days, I will definitely try to go for a run or even do some push-ups before, like you said, just to like get your blood going, get the endorphins, get a little hot, all that type of thing, which typically tends to work. So
it does.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. You don't really think about that as a drummer or as a musician when you start playing that instrument. I remember setting up my practice pads and just playing in the trailer for like upwards of like 2 hours, thinking that I couldn't play or couldn't perform well unless I had gone over all the songs once.
That's wild. See, sometimes, and I did the same thing. I would just like wear myself out by the time we get on stage. But then I think as you like kind of go on more and you play more shows, for me, I feel like when I don't warm up, I'm actually a little better. Because it's fresh and like the excitement like hits you like a wall and you're like, okay, I'm in, let's go. And you don't have the time to like overthink, over prepare yourself.
Right.
So it's a balance, I think.
Yeah.
What I used to do is like we always just, it wasn't even about, and this is probably bad and why we never made it to a professional level, but my band was always just like, let's get hyped. Like the goal was not necessarily like we wanted to play well, we wanted to put on a good show and sound good, but like it was almost more, there was more of an effort put into like going nuts on stage, jumping around as much as possible, flailing on the drums as much as possible. It was like about putting on a show for us. And so there was like a good like 20 minutes prior to every single show where we were just focusing on getting hyped, like psyching each other out. But there's definitely like a mental piece to that, you know, and it's been different in every single band I've been in too. There's different methods that everyone has to getting mentally prepared for playing a show, no matter what instrument you're doing. Vocalists actually, typically, in my opinion, I've seen more vocalists have like a routine that they have to stick to, you know, not
their
being
scales.
able to, their scales or, you know, not drinking certain liquids or drinking certain liquids, you know, breathing exercises, all kinds of stuff. It's like, it's intense.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's Carter. He's usually in the van doing his scales, and he won't let anybody else hear him, even though you step outside the van and you can clearly hear him doing said scales. But as long as he doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Go ahead.
I was going to say, and again, I think it kind of depends on the day. Like you said, you know, sometimes you don't need to warm up and you're just going to go with it. But then sometimes you kind of need those hype pre-shows. You definitely do. I mean, we have a playlist of, you know, 5-10 songs that like get you so hype and you're jumping, bouncing off walls, trying to like hype yourself up. So,
you always got to pick that first intro song, right? Or intro like music. You got to walk into the right song or whatever.
Oh yeah,
it's important.
Yeah. It is very
You
important.
got to get psyched up.
What do you think it's been like going from playing shows and having that dopamine dump and those endorphins to a year like 2020? Has it been difficult for you to not have that high, if you will?
It was at first.
Okay.
It really was. I mean, for everybody, it kind of hit us like a wall, you know, and you're like, shit, I can't tour. I can't hang out with people. Like, what am I going to do with myself? But I really do think that forced us to, you know, dig deeper into other things that we're doing and other things that have gotten like blown over in the past, and find other outlets to be able to still get those endorphins going. I mean, that's why I've been going to the gym more, trying to run. I don't necessarily like running. I mean, who likes running? But, you know, I like what it does to me. I like what it does to my head. So just, and being able to explore and really branch out, I guess, find different ways, I think is super important.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. We've talked about this too on this podcast, and it's reminded me of how true it is. Where as a musician, I have a theory that I think we experience a higher high, natural high, than what some other people in other career paths experience. So let me explain. So like if my brother-in-law is a CPA. Okay, so right now he's in tax season, so he's sitting at a desk and he's working probably 12 hours a day right now, right?
Insane.
And at the end of his day, maybe he's running a little bit and then he's going to bed. When we're playing shows, there is such an enormous amount of adrenaline that you're
constantly
experiencing.
Too.
It's constant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether you're doing the meet and greet or whether you're interacting with fans or you're doing press, or you're around other people on the bus and you're having guests out, and then the stage itself. So there's such a level of high that I think it's difficult, right, for musicians to come off of that and find a new standard. Like, this is where I live now. I live at this level. It's like a 5 compared to the 8 or 9 that I was at when I was on tour. And I think it's a lot of the reason why musicians struggle so much with downtime, where you don't have anything to do, and then B, a sustained amount of downtime like 2020 and 2021 so far.
Yeah,
it's scary times. It really is.
It's and we didn't think, up until this point, we didn't think that this would be possible for the touring industry to be shut down, because typically when the economy takes a dump, the entertainment industry thrives because people
need that escape, need the release.
Struggling. Yeah. So it's like, oh, I have $100. I'm going to go to the show and buy some merch and buy some booze.
it's so interesting. Like before all this happened, I mean, kind of like what you were saying, live music was always there, and it was always going to be there because there's nothing like going to a live show. Like you can't recreate that feeling. Even, you know, watching a YouTube video of a live show, like there's just nothing like it. So I think humans will always crave that energy. And so it was terrifying when like it shut down, and then, you know, a lot of people started to like rebook shows for last fall, and then those kept getting canceled and rescheduled. And it was like, shit, man, like what, like when is it going to come back? Is it going to come back?
Right.
So I feel like everyone was kind of on their toes about that. I do have high hopes for it to come back, obviously. Who knows when, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Hopefully right around the corner.
Yeah. Hopefully
right
in a
around
couple
festivals.
months.
Yeah, I'm seeing some festivals open up for like September, so I hope it sticks. I would
Yeah.
love that.
Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Matt, have you guys talked about trying to schedule anything yet, or just
Yeah, we
totally
have.
waiting?
We have something tentative. Like it's like cross your fingers, hold
Yeah.
your breath.
Yeah.
I hope this works. But to your point, last year, you know, we were on tour with Killswitch for 3 days, and then we got sent home. The NCAA pulled the tournament. Live Nation shut it down, sent us home. We dumped our trailer at a self-storage place the day we were supposed to play Philly,
Yeah.
which was a strange and bizarre moment. 3 days into tour, and then it's like, oh, well, we'll get back out this summer.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
That was
like,
everyone's hope. It was like, oh, it'll just be a few weeks. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. Keep everything going. Just put on a quick pause, and here we are a
Right.
year later.
It's insane.
Yeah, just
insane.
over a year later, like we had a band chat, like we have like a band group chat, and someone texted, I don't know when it was, like March 14th. It was like last week, I think. By the time this episode is out, it's maybe 2 weeks, but they were like, oh, it's been 1 year since we played our last show.
Happy
Sent a
anniversary.
picture. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we just posted a podcast video actually of you on the bus, in the back of the bus with Jake. We were recording an episode, and you had just finished a show. It was, I think, your first show with Killswitch, or maybe your second. I don't remember. And it was literally the night before the whole tour shut down. It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like bringing back all the feels right now.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's insane that it's been
Such a
this
rough
long
time.
already.
Yeah, it feels
Yeah.
unreal. Like this whole past year was just like some imaginative world that we all created. I don't know.
What's been cool, though, is that despite, I mean, obviously it's not a good thing that's happening, but within it, I feel like I've seen a lot of creativity kind of blossom from it. You know, there's, we kind of talked before coming into this episode about how it's been pushing people to be more creative and think outside of the box and try new things. And it's been cool for me as someone who is not a touring musician to experience that. You know, every day there's another like live stream concert and new music coming out. Like we're almost back to the days of singles coming out regularly instead of albums because people are just putting music out. And I love it. I mean, it's like not a good thing, but it's like we're making the
it
best.
work.
Yeah, we're making
making it work.
lemonade out of lemons, basically.
Yeah.
So-
Speaking of the single thing, because we have a whole album that's been done for 2 years, probably 2 or 3 years. We started writing it, and we were about to put it out last summer. Like we were gonna start releasing singles around March, which we did. Like Friends and Mushy Gushy, those 2 songs are on the album. So we started to do some singles, and we were gonna put out the album. And then our record label was like, "No, let's wait. Let's hold off until we can tour and do like a full promotional cycle for it."
Sure.
So we're like, okay, that's cool. You know, we'll wait 6 months if we have to. And that's what inspired us to do this EP that we have coming out.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool because that was the first time Carter and I really got to, I mean, we've gotten like so close this past year, like every single day together, like just brutally honest. Like he's my best friend, my brother, all the things. He's awesome. But so just being like trapped in the basement, you know, it's a little scary, but it really helped us like explore our musical creativity together. And I think that was really special.
That's
So we
awesome.
got to just like sit here in his room and just write whatever we wanted and didn't
Yeah.
feel like any pressure or like this has to be on this album. So we just wrote a bunch of songs and gonna just put them out.
That's sick. So
Yeah,
tell
it
us a little
is.
bit about that process. Like, what is it like for you as a, not just a drummer, but a songwriter? You know, what's your process for writing and what went into this EP?
Good question. I think first and foremost, it really, this past year showed me how much I want to get better with songwriting and even like production. Like I've been producing my own little jams on the side apart from Chapel. But just being able to be here with Carter and like, he's gotten so much better at like writing and producing, engineering, all the things. So me just like seeing that and learning from him and like learning from YouTube videos and other writers, really being able to like experiment and be able to like make the sounds that are in my head has
Yeah.
been really, really cool. And
That is
just for
cool.
us to like bond more over the music, I think has been awesome. That probably
That's
wouldn't
awesome.
have happened if we were touring a bunch still. So
Yeah,
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 took
that's
full
pretty
advantage of that. Yeah.
that's awesome. And this EP, so this EP is coming out April 23rd. That's correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That's awesome. And then today, which, well, I guess it won't be today when you're hearing this, but today when it's being recorded, your new video for Wow was released,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we
so
released
definitely
Wow.
Go check that out if you're listening.
Yeah.
That's,
Another really cool thing, you know, being able to expand and be creative in all these outlets. So I actually went to film school for 2 years, and Carter also has a, you know, background of film. So we actually told our record label, we're like, hey, we'll shoot all these videos ourselves if y'all want,
cool.
you know, save some money. So we
Yeah.
like got a camera. And so, yeah, like Pillow Talk is one of our singles that we released. Wow and First Love, like we shot all the videos ourselves, just the
Oh,
two
cool.
of us.
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, Pillow Talk actually when we both had COVID. Funny
Really?
or not. Yeah, that was tough. We were very winded, but we made it
Man.
work, and I think they turned out pretty cool.
That's
So,
awesome.
Just being able to explore that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question for you. I'm a big fan of Chapel. I binged Morning Brunch for like an entire year in 2018. It was on constantly, windows rolled
That's
down,
awesome.
blasting it. It's
What's
just
your favorite
it's
song?
We've Got Soul, I think.
That's a good
It's
one.
it's so
Those
good.
are my favorite drums. That song. for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, the whole album really from start to finish is just fantastic. But one thing that surprised me, so it came on, I think I discovered you guys through Spotify. You were like on a playlist or like an artist playlist that I was listening to, and it came on.
Right on.
And so I started listening, and I obviously got attached to it right away. I was shocked when I looked you guys up and found out that you were a two-piece. What is like so I've never been in a two-piece band short of like just playing like acoustic guitar with my friend at a cafe or something. Like
Yeah.
it's such a foreign concept to be on a stage in front of who knows how many people playing a rock show with
Yeah.
two people.
With
What
two
is
of-
that?
yeah.
What's that like?
I mean, kind of what you were saying about the whole warming up situation y'all do, because you go out and you need to perform along with play the songs correctly. A lot of it is, you know, the whole performance of it, and there is only two, so we have to kind of be more, you know, exhilarant, all the things, and
Yeah.
so it's exhausting. But I think at the end of the day, it's a lot easier. I mean, we are playing to a laptop, so I mean, it's just as long as I'm on, then it sounds great for the
Yeah.
most part, you know. And then Carter,
Yeah.
he's singing. We have all the tracks playing, and yeah, it's a good time. And then I don't have all these other dudes that I have to deal with. It's just one.
True.
It's great. Yeah,
Good
and we've
point.
gotten
Less
so
drama.
close to where
Less in-band
yeah.
drama.
and we're just so like we've gotten to a point, and it hasn't always been like this. Like I don't know. I think our chemistry now over the years has grown into something so awesome and just so special. But it definitely wasn't always like this. But now like we're just so honest with each other, and we know each other. We know each other's families, and we know how we work. And if he's off one night, I'm able to recognize that and then maybe put a little more effort on my end, just because I think the balance between it has to be there. So
Yeah.
as he does the same. I mean, if I'm exhausted or hungover or like not feeling it, then he'll be like, yeah, like I got you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's a good point, though.
That's
I mean, if
important.
there's just two of you on stage, do you feel like it's? I mean, obviously, it's more difficult to fill the stage
Yeah.
because there are just two of you. Do you feel like the expectation is lower when you walk out, that people think, okay, there's just two, let's blow them away? Like we can show them how much energy we have and how exciting we are to watch.
I will admit that is definitely one comment that we get quite often, is like, just for two of you, like you can really put on a show.
Right.
Which I think is one of the most important things besides making it sound good. I mean, people go for a show. They spend their money to, be awed.
Be entertained.
So to be entertained. So, and Carter does very well at that. He is wild, throwing himself every which way of the stage. And yeah, but I think, that is a huge part of it, especially just being two of us. We kind of got to step it up a little bit. But it's fun. It's tough.
Who are some of your influences, maybe even outside of drumming, like from a performance standpoint?
I'm not gonna lie to you, Matt. Definitely, probably you, as drumming goes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, just so solid and always nailing it. Performance. I've been a big fan of Quinn 92 lately. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's just, I don't know, like his rhythms and his beats and just the way like he's moving on stage, I think is awesome. Yeah, I don't know. That's tough. What about you?
Do you remember sitting in I just thought of this. This takes me way back. We were playing in, I want to say Michigan, at
Grand Rapids.
the Grand Rapids. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I think I do.
We played a venue, I think it's called the Intersection.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yes.
And we were listening to music in the van.
And that's when I showed you the new band.
That's when you showed me
Fair
the new
Weapon.
band. Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah, because
That's
we
what I
just
thought.
finished an album. That whole chapter of my life was wild. So I'll summarize it. But I was in college. I was in my second year of college, and I was doing the whole YouTube video thing, like the drum covers. Basically, just doing that so I could find a band. Like that was
Right.
my way to connect with someone other than a local band. And so, by doing that, I got connected with some dudes down in Atlanta. I was living in Michigan at the time. And I think it was Dave Shapiro. He like called me out of the blue one day. I was doing my algebra homework. I'm like, I hate my life. He calls me. He's like, hey, I have a band for you. We're going to fly you down to Florida, record an album with Tom Denny, legend. And you're going on tour this fall. I'm like, okay, cool. No big deal. Cool. And so I flew down to Florida, and it was just Tom and I for a week straight. Just him and I, and we like had these songs, tracked drums, and we had a whole album done. And then I think it was that summer that I went to your show, and we were catching up, and then I showed you the album. And yeah, that was a very cool feeling. That was a very good summer.
What is it that got you? I mean, obviously you're really excited about, not just drumming, but just this world of music. What would be considered alternative music? It's not, you're not listening to what the majority of people listen to, and you're in love with it. What got you started in this, on this road?
I want to say, I think so my brother, he had all the instruments when I was growing up, and I'd always sneak into his bedroom when he wasn't home.
Oh, nice.
And I would take his guitar, like fiddle around. I didn't know what I was doing clearly, but he had a bass guitar, and then he had a drum set. So I'd always sneak in, and then he listened to a lot of cool music. He was listening to like Green Day and Blink-182, and I was like, I want to be like him. Like, that's really cool. I'm into this. And then I think my first big show was Paramore in Jimmy Eat World. I was probably like 12, I think.
Huge. That's huge.
And it was massive. And I was just like, I want to do that. Like I want to be on stage. I want to be in a band, and I want to tour. I think that's exactly what I was like telling everybody. Like I want to be in a band and I want to tour. And that's that. I don't care how, I don't care what that looks like. I just want to do it. And I think, that was the biggest like eye opener for me, was that concert.
Yeah. I was talking to JB a couple months ago, the guitarist in my band, and we were talking about when you start a band, your goal isn't really outlined in what it's going to be like to be in a band, right? But you realize what you start a band for when you go through a year like 2020. In other words, no live shows, maybe a live stream show, lots of time at home, and working on new songs and recording, maybe, if you're fortunate. And so JB and I were talking about this, and we both agreed that it feels like we're treading water. And in fact, you wouldn't start a band necessarily if you knew that this is what a band would be like. So I want to ask you, if starting a band meant 2020, where you're writing music, you're working to release it, maybe you're working at your instrument, would you have started a band?
That's a really good question. As a teenager, probably not. Just because, the one thing you want to do is tour and play for people. But within, past 5 years-ish, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just, having that bond with another human, like creating songs and just being vulnerable in a room and writing music that really like speaks to you and gives you the goosebumps, and, making something out of nothing, I think is like one of the coolest things that anyone can do. So yeah, even if touring never happened again, God forbid, I would definitely always still want to do the band and writing music and that whole thing.
Yeah.
Are you the kind of person who likes to be in the spotlight, or would you rather be sitting behind a drum set and not have the spotlight on you?
It kind of depends on the day.
Okay.
Sometimes.
Good answer.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I like to think of myself like super introverted. Like I definitely have not minded just staying in my room a lot and reading and, doing all these things just for myself. But then there also are the times where like I feel really cool and I want to play drums and I want to like entertain people and want them to be like, oh my God, that's so awesome. Like I want to do that. So I think it's good balance
awesome.
of both. But
that's good.
Yeah,
that's
I
a
don't
good place to
mind
be.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to be. It's interesting how when you're in a band, there is such a wide range of personalities in the band. Whereas in your case, there's just two.
There's just
actually.
two.
There's just two of you.
That's
so
true.
It's like, oh, what are we like? There's only two of us. We get along well. That's good.
And
Hopefully,
it's perfect because we're totally like we're so opposite in those
You're
ways.
opposite. Yeah.
Carter's definitely more of like the homebody, like just doing his own thing, and I'm always kind of like traveling. I'm always like seeing my people because I have family everywhere, and just I don't necessarily like to stay put in one place for too long. But yeah, that's where I think we work out really well. So we have the yin and yang of it.
Yeah.
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 That's
awesome.
really cool. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Thanks. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's special.
Found myself a good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something about being creative too with other people that is rewarding. We talk
Absolutely.
a lot about this on the podcast. Just in general, like if you're not doing as a creative person, if you're not being creative, usually the worst comes out in you. I know that for myself. If I haven't created something, music specifically, if I haven't created music, I'm not a fun person to be around. And but on the adverse side, if I'm creating music all the time, I'm the best version of myself. And
Yeah.
when you can share that with somebody, you know, co-writing especially is something that a lot of people have trouble with, because you have to get vulnerable as an artist. You know, you have to be, you have to open up to really dig out the good, the good stuff. And that's tough, to be vulnerable and transparent with other people unless you have that relationship. So it's cool to see that you have that with Carter. I know Matt has that with his band, and it's so important.
Yeah, it's like a therapy session every time. It really is.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
I know you write a lot of lyrics for August Burns Red. Yeah, lyrics is the one thing I'm so bad at, though. Like it takes so much out of me, because I think what you're saying, it's very vulnerable and it's real, and you have to dive into places in your brain that, you know, sometimes you push aside, or you haven't said hi to her in a long time, and you got to bring a lot of those things out in a cool way that people will, you know, be able to relate and understand in a way. That's tough. Yeah, lyrics are not my thing.
I didn't even know how good Matt's lyrics were until we started this podcast, because I couldn't understand what Jake was screaming. And then I had more of a reason to actually like read them, and they're great. Matt's a great lyricist.
He really is.
Thank you guys. This brings up an interesting point that I want to talk about. Do you think that the world would be a better place if everyone had a drum set, in quotation marks? So in other words, if everyone had a thing, their thing,
An outlet type thing.
an outlet. For me, it's drums. But certainly I think the argument could be made that if everyone felt the same way we do after we are creative, or after we've challenged ourselves with our instrument, people wouldn't take out aggression or feel at a loss, and make toxic scenarios out of situations that don't need to be toxic. Do you think there's something to be said about that? The fact that not everybody has an outlet.
Absolutely. I think, you know, a lot of, like, so many people, and it's so sad, but like, get into their routine. They have their shitty job that they couldn't care less about, but they have to do it in order to survive and, you know, be there for their family and all those things. But people just get so used to doing the everyday circle of just like purely just like living. And yeah, no, that sucks. And I really do think if anyone had even just like a little bit of an outlet, whether that be going to a driving range, gun range, you know, driving a car, even just anything, just to be able to like let loose and maybe just like let some aggression, let some emotions out. I think the world would be a way better place.
Yeah.
It's really
I mean,
sad.
it sounds tongue in cheek to say the world would be a better place, but I really legitimately believe that it would be, because I didn't know that not everybody had a drum set, once again in quotation marks. Like, you know, years ago when I was playing drums, one day, I forget what happened. Tim, I've talked to you about this before, but like, I was talking to someone about how much I love drumming and how it's by far the hardest thing I've ever done. By far.
Absolutely.
Nothing is even close in comparison. You know, and I was talking to them about it, expecting them to respond with something that they felt the same way about. And they're just like, wait, really? That is a factual thing in your life? Like, everything you're saying is real? You're not just making this. I was like, no, this is it for me. Like, this is the thing I love. And I realized that day, this is probably a decade ago, I guess I just had never thought about it, that some people, to your point, just go through the grind, and they don't ever, whether it's an opportunity thing or a lack of opportunity, whether it's a lack of drive to sort of get outside the box, which might be more of a personality thing.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is, I really do feel like I fell into this opportunity to play drums. And then from there, that was the vehicle that, you know, obviously took me to ABR and everything else. But first was drums. That was there in the beginning. And I just saw drums one day. I saw someone playing drums, and I'm like, Yeah, I want
Those
to
are
do
cool.
that. That's what I want to do.
Doesn't look too bad.
That looks
no,
fun.
and I think like a lot of people as kids, you know, have all these like interests and these hobbies, and they're like, oh, when I get older, I want to do that. But I mean, life bites you in the ass, and you have to, in you know, some cases, come back down to earth. And I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, well, that was just me as a kid. Those are my wants and desires when I was younger, but it's not realistic to make that happen or to, you know, bring that back into my life. And that just,
Sure.
it
That's
just
a great
sucks.
point.
Yeah.
That's a great point. So some of it is things happen outside of your control in your life, you know? Like, for example, I had a great family. My parents did an awesome job of supporting me. So right there, I mean, you're already ahead of the 8 ball. And a lot of people don't have that. So what would you say to someone, namely, like, we'll probably talk about this a little bit, but like females, you know, girls in the music industry, what would you say to someone who is aspiring to be in a position like you're in, who's, I mean, I'm looking at your screen, you have an SM7, the Joe Rogan mic, you have a sweet studio rig behind you. You're in a sweet band. You're an awesome drummer. You've been complimented by the singer of Architects. Like life's pretty good when it comes to music.
Yeah.
So like, what do you have to say to someone who's looking at that going, there's no way I could climb that mountain. I would crumble somewhere in the middle. I'm not even going to start.
Wow. Well, thank you for all that. Yeah, it is definitely something I do not take for granted. And I do the whole little gratitude thing every day. And I really do, like, I'm so beyond thankful for everything that life has brought me. But it definitely does not come overnight, you know? And a lot of times, especially like in today's world, like with 2020, like so many people want things now. Like if they don't see, you know, it turning out well, like they're not going to do it. Or if it's too much work, they're not going to do it. But I think it's just really knowing like what your heart wants to do. And even if it doesn't make sense, just to keep doing it. And it doesn't even have to be an everyday thing. I mean, there are plenty of even months that go by where I don't feel like playing drums, but like, that's okay. And that's just being human and all those things. But I think just knowing that the best things in life do take time and just to keep at it. And even when shit gets like dark or it looks like it's not going to happen or anything like that, just to keep doing it. As cliche as that is, just to keep on moving forward.
Yeah.
That's great advice. Yeah.
It is. It speaks to the consistency with that we've talked about, Tim, where if you do a little thing every day, it becomes a big thing in the end, but it requires that consistency.
It really does.
Just keep doing it, you know, and to your point, like take a couple months off of something that's a good thing so that you can come back to it eventually.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. No,
so that kind of segues awesome. Nicely into a question that I had for you. We asked Sarah Thawer this question when she was on the show last year.
She's the best.
And she was the best.
We realized when we were recording, she was the first female that we've ever had on the show, and you're now the second. So I want to ask you, because everyone has a different experience, and I'm just curious, what's your experience been like as a female in a predominantly male drumming field? Have you found it to be difficult, or is it easier to stand out? I'm just curious, like, what your experience has been like.
To be completely honest, it has been a little easier to stand out. I mean, especially when I like started putting up YouTube covers and I'm playing along to Matt's drums parts, and people are like, wait, what the hell? Like, I don't see too many girls doing this. Yeah. So that alone, you know, put me a little bit like higher than, you know, some of the dudes doing it, just because you see guys playing drums every day. Like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
But then I guess to see any chick just rocking out, it's like, oh, holy shit. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been weird just, you know, especially touring, because I mean, you're on tour with 99% dudes. So it is kind of hard to find that like emotional, not support, but buddy, I guess, on tour, just because you're surrounded by all these other people. But yeah, I am very glad that I am a woman.
Yeah.
You can say.
That's good.
Yeah. And I guess it's kind of pushed me to like get better and try to learn different techniques and really push myself more to stand out even more as a woman, I guess.
I think, okay, I really appreciate your response to that. And I think it brings up a point about that can be said about our society. So in the last couple of years, there is an influx of female drummers on Instagram, at least, right?
Yeah.
And it seems as if their skill level is not always competent with, the 99%, like you're saying, all the dudes that are playing drums that you're used to seeing. And so to your point, the expectation isn't there yet. It's increasing, right? There are more female drummers. There's more skill in all areas. But I'm just wondering, what is your reaction when you go on Instagram and you see a girl that has 300,000 followers and she's just not that good at drums? Are you looking at that going, this is awesome that we are supporting and championing this girl clearly because she's a female, not solely because of her ability to play? Does that make sense?
It does. And that's a tricky question, because part of me is like, hell yes, I don't even care your skill set, just you putting yourself out there. And I mean, you're getting the views for a reason, right? And whatever reason that may be, that's awesome. All respect to you. But then the other part of it is, I do kind of hate that it is such a gender specified thing, and people only are watching this because she's a female. Because she looks hot doing it. And that takes away from like the musicianship of it. So it is tricky. I mean, yeah, it's just a weird world we live in.
It's funny how when you overcome some kind of adversity, another challenge is kind of thrown right at you, right? I mean, this is across the board for everybody, not just females, but it's just interesting seeing it, because that's my exact reaction is your reaction. Like, this is great. I love
awesome.
this. I'm so glad you're getting attention. But at the same time, it's like, well, now you have to come against like, oh, well, she's just getting attention because of this and this. And it's like, why does there always have to be something? Like,
why does it even have to be a thing? Just let her do what she wants to do.
Right. Yeah,
but then there are also very talented people who, aren't looking the certain way that someone would. And then their talent is through the roof, and they're not getting any attention because they're wearing a garbage bag. So
okay, so I think this is an area we can be critical for the good, not to be destructive, but to benefit drummers of all genders, right? So it's like, you're an amazing drummer and you're a female. Two things can be true at the same time. I think that when you see a girl who's playing drums on Instagram who's not that good at drums, you can say, this is a good thing, to Tim's point. But I think we can also say we need to acknowledge the skill level and call something good that's good, and something that can be improved, room for progress. Because I think to do otherwise disqualifies and discredits someone with your ability. And it sort of says, well, you're a female drummer just like that other female drummer. It doesn't really matter what your ability is. That's not true at all. You've worked so long and so hard to be where you are as a drummer, and your ability is pro, right? And so I think we need to acknowledge that in someone like you. And when we use such a broad stroke and say it's all good, I think we take away from the ability to make a proper judgment about someone's skill level, and in the end we do a disservice to the entire movement. And so I want to champion people that have the ability to play, and also at the same time champion this movement of girls who are playing drums, because that's freaking awesome.
It is freaking awesome.
And it's kind of a new thing. Like I said, like, it's just in the past couple of years you see at least on Instagram. Like,
Oh yeah.
you were one of the first, I feel like, 10 years ago, 8
I
years
guess
ago.
in this scene, I'll say maybe one of. I mean, I know Jess Bowen. She is a queen. Love her.
Jess Bowen's great.
But like older than me, there really hasn't been that many. And I got this question earlier today: is like, who, when growing up, like who did you look up to behind the kit on stage, like female wise? And I was like, to be honest, like there wasn't. And I think that may have been a spark for me as well, is that I didn't see any female behind the drums. I would only see like a front woman. So I was like, hey, like, is this even possible? Is this even like a thing that I could do? And I would like have that, that front initial thought, but then I was like, no, like I want to play drums. I love it. I don't know why, but I do. And it just kind of made it happen. But no, it is very cool to see the numbers of female drummers really like skyrocket the past couple of years.
Oh, okay. So here's the end of this point for me that I want to hit home with you. I have a friend named Bubba Wallace. He drives NASCAR, and he comes out to our shows. He's a drummer. He bought a Grinder Kilmer kit years ago. Like, just continually blows my mind that a NASCAR drummer is a friend of mine and owns one of my drum sets. How can that be? I grew up on NASCAR. I still love NASCAR.
Yeah.
And so this guy, we become friends, and he'll talk to me sometimes about how he does interviews, and he can't stand that people want to talk about race all the time. It's like their lead-off question, right? So he's African American and he's a NASCAR driver. And of course, there aren't a lot of African American NASCAR drivers. There has been one, I think, in the past, but obviously it's a very low percentage. And it makes me think of the topic that we're talking about, which is, I want to talk to you about your ability to play drums or your ability to perform. I don't really want to talk to you about the thing that is kind of a non-issue. It doesn't affect the fact, it doesn't, take you up a level or down a level that you are a female in my mind. I don't even, I don't see it. Like, I don't think about it. I don't see it. I don't really want to talk about it. And I think it's kind of the same thing with Bubba. Like, I think his response typically is like, I mean, I just want to be the fastest NASCAR driver. Like, I just want to talk NASCAR.
Like, I just want to do
what
it.
I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want that for you, and I want that for Sarah, because from what I've heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that's what you want.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
what you want. Just to be seen for what you're creating and what you're perfecting and what's challenging you.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I remember, like, when I first started doing the YouTube thing, almost every comment was like, "Oh, you're so good for a girl. Oh my God, I've never seen a woman play like you." I'm like,
so
why
messed
can't you
up,
just
yeah.
say
That's
I'm good?
garbage.
Like, that's it.
Oh,
Like,
man.
that's all you need to say. Like, I don't necessarily love those comments. I mean, it is what it is. I'm clearly a woman doing all the things, but yeah, it is just interesting that so many people, like, that's the first and kind of only thing they see. But I don't know, I do think we're moving into a better way of seeing that, though. I think just with more female drummers coming up, and even just everything with the whole just being yourself and just living your own life. I think, and especially this whole past year, like, people, I feel like, started to kind of care a little less about those things and just more about, like, hey, she's been dedicated her whole life to this craft. Like, that's what we're going to look at. That's what we're going to talk about. I do think it is getting better, which is cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That is, I think it's an important thing to talk about, and I'm really grateful that you'll talk about it with us, because on this podcast, it's just Tim and I, and we try to do our best with our thing with this podcast is, like, we want to champion people or groups of people who we feel like need support or need defended, and that's kind of been a running theme with what we've done here. We haven't really thought about it. So to have someone like you on who has just such a grounded mindset and is in it for the right reasons is is reassuring for me as someone who has this podcast. We just try to do our best, and it's like, oh yeah, I feel like this is in line with Tim, what you've been teaching me, you know, and what our listeners have been teaching us about how to do better, how to be better. And so it's really cool. It's really cool to hear your perspective on it. I'm really proud of you.
Thanks,
honestly.
Matt. I appreciate that a lot, more than you know. So
yeah.
No, it's cool.
Absolutely.
And I don't always get the time, I guess, to necessarily talk about a lot of these things. I mean, most times we're doing, you know, if we're doing an interview, it's about chapel, it's about the songs, which is awesome. Like, I love that. It's my band, but it is also cool to have, and especially like with you two, like I really feel like we're just like kicking it in the living room, like
we're
having a
chilling.
beer, just chatting, which is awesome.
Swimming pools outside. That's where we're headed next.
There you go.
You know, we might write a jam tonight. Who knows?
That's right.
Who knows?
Tim, but there is actually a swimming pool to Kortney's right.
Oh, there
and
totally
if you're
is.
listening to this, you should see this setup. It's pretty
I'm
awesome.
a little jealous, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's wild. I'm beyond fortunate. I really am.
Yeah. That's awesome.
awesome.
You deserve it.
So cool.
So we're going to transition here into our two inner circle questions, if that's all right, Kortney.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
The inner circle is a group of drummers, or just people, actually, not all drummers, who support
I think
us.
there's more non-drummers, believe it or
Love
not.
it.
Non-drummers are the inner circle.
There's a lot of non-drummers.
So Tim reached out, and we heard back from Brendan Harris and Patrick Spence. And Brendan Harris asks, where did the food theme for Sunday brunch come from?
Oh, it's been a minute since we got that. The food thing. To be completely honest, we were looking for a subject for the album, right? We had all these songs done, and we're like, we need something really good, something that really people understand, people connect with. And this was at the time where I wasn't living with Carter. I would always come to visit. He was still here in Georgia. I would always come to visit. And every weekend, his dad would make us this massive breakfast, this massive brunch on the weekends. And I think we were just sitting there together one day, and we were like, dude, what if we just like called it Sunday brunch? Like, cause it's just something that you kind of always look forward to. And that it's just like a neutral part of your life that you're just like, I don't know. I mean, everyone looks forward to it, and it's just it's a happy feeling type of moment. So I think we said it, and it just kind of stuck.
I love that.
And who doesn't like bacon, dude?
There you go.
That's great.
So yeah,
Cool.
that's that.
And then our second question is from Patrick, and he asks, is there a defining moment where you knew drumming started to feel as natural as breathing, like a new skill learned, an adjustment to technique, or anything that led to the aha, found my flow moment?
I can't pinpoint like a day or a technique or one thing I've learned, but I think it was around the time of, I'll say like junior, senior year of high school, where I really started, like I was going to shows every single weekend. I had such a community with my friends. Like it's like, you know, back in the day, you're like, oh, I'm going to the mall this weekend. We'd be at the mall, like everyone's at the mall. But this was like, everyone was at the shows, always. And it was the coolest thing. And it really started to inspire me so much, which was like more than drums, you know, just the whole community and like the power behind music. And I think that's really when it started to hit. That's also when I started to take on some August Burns Red songs and learn a lot. And I think just forcing myself to like learn those, which was crazy parts, just the coolest, craziest, wildest parts, but to like make yourself do it and like, I don't know, just force yourself to like learn all these new things. It really started to hit me. And I was like, yo, like this, it was kind of like a big wave. Like it would slowly happen, all these little things. And then it just kind of just took over. And I was like, I am in love with this. You know?
That's killer.
I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
an awesome community. I mean, your local shows was just it was so much better than going to the local football, high school football games or
Oh yeah.
whatever else people did. I mean, it was like, no, this is way cooler. And it's
Yeah.
my thing. This is
Yeah.
our thing.
No one understands it, but it's my damn thing.
And that's,
Yeah.
And I do think, having that,
Yeah.
like just having that community, it gives drums and music more of like a purpose, and it fills you up in different ways than
yeah.
just, picking up something and just playing in your room or whatever. I think you need a little bit of all of it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
Even outside of the local community, I've loved seeing, wherever you go, if you find out someone's a musician or especially a drummer, in our case,
Oh yeah.
there's just an automatic, I get you.
Yeah.
Like,
Homies.
we got, and there's also like this unspoken, challenge to be a better drummer, but no matter how good they are, it's like, oh, I need to be better. I need to play as good as possible. But that community, especially now that social media is so ingrained in our society, I've connected with so many cool people, like on Instagram and on Facebook, just because of drumming,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is so powerful when you think about it. Like, just this instrument has connected me to people all over the world, and they're the coolest people, and I never would have met them had it not been for this
It
instrument.
is wild. I mean,
We wouldn't be having this conversation or this podcast if it wasn't for this instrument.
yeah. And
Wild.
I
It's
don't
crazy.
know this world because I'm not really in it, but I feel like compared to even guitarists or singers or bass players, do bassists have this whole community of I don't know. They might. It's probably cooler than
might.
ours, but
They might.
it is just such a thing. And I love it. The drumming community is just, it's a beautiful place to be.
It is.
They
It
might.
is.
It's probably cooler than ours.
I mean, they're bassists, so
Bassists get knocked on more than any other musician.
yeah.
I will say if I
Those poor
didn't
guys.
play drums, I would 1,000% play bass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
that's cool.
Just the rhythm of it, and just to be
Yeah.
able to throw yourself around stage, I think would be really fun.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, some of the best musicians I know are bass players.
Yeah.
So,
It's that rhythm section, man.
that's right.
Yeah.
We know what's up.
Cool. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on, Kortney. For any of you listening, make sure you go check out Kortney's band, Chapel, at Chapel USA. And make sure you follow Kortney as well, at Kortney Grinwis. So you're not going to be upset with what you see there.
That's right.
No,
Thank you so
guys
much, Kortney.
Seriously,
This has
so much
been-
for having me. I've been looking forward to this all 2 days. So
Yeah.
I really have. This is very cool. Appreciate you
Yeah,
guys.
it is awesome. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming on here and
Yes.
being a part of it. I know it's going to be a favorite for our listeners. So
Yeah.
Right
thank
on.
you so much. Really appreciate
Absolutely. We'll have to do it again sometime in the future
For sure.
after COVID and all that stuff. Once we get back
Yeah,
to touring and all that.
definitely. Well, we'll actually do an interview by the pool next time.
Hey. Yep. Yeah.
Or not even an interview, just a conversation. We're just going to chat,
I love it.
crack open a beer.
it. Yeah.
1,000% we got to
That's
do
right.
that.
Yeah.
I'm holding you to it, Tim. I'm holding you to it.
There you go.
All right. Thanks
Right
for
on.
listening.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
'Cause we've got Cause I just want a chance to break the mold. I'm a bougie-ass bitch deep in my bones. Got fun, I'll never see the money. Cause I just want a chance to break the mold. I'm a bougie-ass bitch deep in my bones. I'd rather be broke than brain dead.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to Holy Ghost Notes. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Kortney Grinwis. We just want to thank Kortney for coming on our show, spending
Yeah.
some time with us.
Thank you.
Amazing drummer, and just very cool to know that there's someone out there like Kortney who really cares about what she's doing and is able to work through a year like 2020 in a creative way and be transparent enough, after the fact to talk about it with us, right? It was like
Yeah.
we got we got to see what it was like to be Kortney, and you could tell that she's just a genuine person, even though kind of a stoic format or medium like a podcast. You could still you could still hear her authenticity shine through. So thank you, Kortney. We appreciate you very much, and we really appreciate all you guys checking this episode out.
Yeah, for sure. So this episode actually, so it falls on March 25th, which coincidentally is the first. Episode 1 was released on March 25th in 2019. So this is technically our 2-year anniversary, even though we started the podcast before this. This is the actual episode date of our 2-year anniversary. So huge thank you to all of you who have been listening for since the beginning, or listening at all. You know, it's been a pretty long journey. We've been through a lot in the last 2 years in life, and we've discussed a lot of really cool topics on this podcast, and it's been a lot of fun. So I've grown a lot as a person because of it, and it's kind of a highlight of the last 2 years for me. So thank you all for being a part of it. To, I guess, commemorate or celebrate this 2-year milestone, we decided we were going to give everybody 15% off at our web store. The shop.theholyghostnotes.com. So if you use the code Holy 2 years, number 2, Holy number 2 years, at the checkout, you type that code in and you'll get 15% off your entire purchase. That'll be good through the end of April. So check that out if you're interested. We've got some cool stuff up there. And would love for you guys to not have to pay full price. And that web store is a huge feat, and that's primarily thanks to our Inner Circle, our patron group. So if you're interested in finding out about that, it's patreon.com/holyghostnotes, and that gives you access at a variety of different tiers to a number of different incentives. And we've got an amazing community group. We actually just added Discord to the list of ways of communicating and staying in touch. And it's just an amazing group of people. And if you're interested, check it out. I actually have a couple new shout outs to do for new supporters. So our first is Zachary Crucker, and the second is Frank Lemon. So thank you guys so much for your support. Welcome to the Inner Circle. And I'll just go right into the rest of the stuff. I've got a stockpile of some awesome drum videos sitting on my phone waiting to be posted. And
That's
that
awesome.
is because you guys are using the hashtag Holy Ghost Notes on your drum videos. So I can't wait to post some of these, but definitely keep doing it. It's been so much fun watching these, and you guys are just so awesome. I mean, so many good drummers that I am finding because of this hashtag. So keep it up, keep posting. And if you guys have any questions or comments, drop us a line, Matt and Tim at theholyghostnotes.com. And I think that's about it.
That's it. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate every one of you listeners, Patreon, Inner Circle member or not. And we hope you have a great day.
That's right. It's that time.
Peace.